Okay. Can everybody see my slide deck?
No, I cannot.
Not yet, Naveed.
That's interesting. Okay, let me just share it again. Good. I hope everybody can see it now.
Yes, I can on my end.
Good. Okay, so we're going to talk about Azure Spot virtual machines. This feature has been there for some time, and there are some enhancements, some of the things that kind of new or updated. So I think it's definitely worth talking about, especially cloud is all about using the resources efficiently, and this thing comes right there. So first of all, what are the Spot instances, where they come from? So just to give you kind of a background, uh, in every Azure region or data center, we have excess capacity. So Azure has excess capacity. This capacity is there um, to serve scaling or as customer spin up new workloads. So there's always that excess capacity there, and that capacity um, stay unused. What we are doing with Spot VMs is we are providing our customer an opportunity to use that excess capacity. And with that in mind, that if those resources are needed, then we will take that excess capacity back and you what we call will be evicted. Think of this scenario. So let's say that you have excess capacity in a hotel and you are giving that at a very low price. So because you don't want rooms to go empty, but you tell the customer that listen, if we have more guests coming in, we may have to let you go, or you may have to pay extra. This is kind of supply and demand thing. So that's where Azure Spot VMs are coming from. These are virtual machines that you can spin up in Azure, and when you can spin up either virtual machine scale set. You can spin up node pools in AKS as well as Spot VMs. And what it does, it basically you pay less, and at the same time, you have to keep in mind that your VMs or your resources may be evicted, and there are different eviction policies. We will talk about it. So that's what Spot VMs are all about. So first of all, you can run Windows virtual machines. You can do a single VM as a Spot VM, or you can do VM scale set as the Spot VMs. Okay. Um, Burstable VMs are not supported. Any VMs, if you go into Azure VM, you have sometime VM with a prefix of promo that are not supported. Only so those two VM types are not supported. Eviction policy. This is very important to understand um, how where eviction policy comes into picture. Either the demand is high enough that we will ask you to pay the higher price for those resources, or we need extra capacity and we need to take back those compute resources. Okay, and everything for those VMs is the same. Just keep one thing in mind: there is no SLA for Spot VMs. Okay, so this is very important to understand that there is no SLA for Spot VMs. That's the key thing to understand. Any questions so far? Okay, so eviction policy is that's the key point to understand. So there are two types of policy. So and we will take a look at it when we set it up in a kind of a quick demo. When you set up the eviction policy, uh, there are two things to keep in mind. You can say, okay, deallocate the VM. In that case, let's say you created a VM as a Spot VM instance, and then you decided that I want the policy to deallocate. What will happen is when that price range is hit that you have set, that VM will be deallocated. Your disk, if you have a data disk attached to it, will stay there. Okay. Of course, that VM is deallocated, so you are not paying for that VM anymore. But just keep in mind, you have a quota for those Spot VMs. So just like any other resource in Azure, you have a resource quota. So that VM will still count towards that resource quota. So let's say you spin up 2 VMs, the quota is 100, you eviction policy kicked in, you have started to deallocate, it deallocated, you still have those 2 VMs out of that quota. So the number of CPU that you can spin up is now 98. And just keep in mind, it's not the VM that is in the quota, is the CPU. So if you spin up it 8 VM resources and they are deallocated, now you have 8 plus 8, 16 out of that quota. So your remaining quota is 84. Okay. I hope everybody gets that because this is very important thing to understand in terms of VMs and VM scale sets. When in regards to the eviction policy of deallocation. Second thing is deletion, where you say, okay, delete the VM. So what is that scenario? So let's say you created a VM and now you're saying if when the eviction happens, delete the VM. In that case, the VM and disks are deleted. Okay. Oh, just keep in mind, if it is deallocated, you're still paying for the disk. And this is one thing very important. So let's say you create the VM, it has a disk attached to it or multiple disks. You have deallocated it. I mean, it was deallocated because of eviction. You are still paying for that VM disks, not for the virtual machine, but the disks. Okay, because VM is deallocated. On the other hand, if the VM is deleted, it will be deleted along with its disk. So you are not paying um, kind of for those. Everything is deleted. So that's something to take note of. Any questions? Let's. I mean, that's kind of some of the cost saving. Of course, as I said, cloud is one of the key promise of cloud is uh, efficient use of resources, and that is one of the key things. If you have workload that are what we call interruptible, let's say that you are running some workloads where you can afford to be interrupted. It's like you are running like a calculation or something, and um, it's kind of a kind of what we call long-running calculations on VMs or processing, and you're doing that in parallel, and what you can afford to restart it if it is stopped. So basically, once it's interrupted, it can pick up where it left off. In that case, you can use these Spot VMs. Okay, so that's one of the things that you can definitely do. Let's quickly move on. So these are some of the high performance compute, of course, def test environment, and that's one of the application and large scale. I mean, if you are running any stateless application where state is not a big issue, that's where you can take advantage of these Spot virtual machines. I think def test environment is a big use case. Okay, and by the way, just keep in mind that you can use your hybrid use benefits along with Spot VM pricing. So its hybrid use benefit will still apply. So if you are spinning up Windows virtual machines, you have hybrid use benefits, Windows Server, you can bring those in, and that will apply in addition to the Spot VM pricing. So that's kind of, you can get all the benefit. Okay, that's something about. Okay, so let's see a few quick demos, like how you can create Spot VMs, and let's talk about it. So let's go into this here, and let's create a Linux virtual machine. Let's see how that experience look like. So I'm gonna call it 1, and this is where it says Spot VM instance. It tells you what Spot VMs are. If I say yes, it will show me, okay, how you wanna do the eviction, capacity only. So it's basically, you have set your max price. What will happen is, once that max price is hit on the capacity side, you will be evicted. Or you can do both on price and capacity. If that price is higher, or if the capacity is needed in both cases. And once again, it is stop, deallocate, eviction policy, or delete. It's one of those. And interesting thing is, you can see how the pricing went. So these are different region. It will show you what are different pricing. So, this is the region that you have selected. This is the price in this region, but there are other regions where you can get it at a cheaper price. You can get the eviction rate. Look, the price is lower, but the eviction rate is higher. At the same time, West US2, price is a bit higher, but eviction rate is lower. So you can look at different regions and find out where your sweet spot is, and then you can set it up. And you can also set the max price as well. And you can say, okay, yeah, I will pay up to this price. If that is higher, then please evict me. So basically, that's what I was talking about. Either it's on the eviction policy. So whenever Azure need resources, you can get evicted, or you can say, hey, if that's my maximum price that I would like to pay. If it is above that price, then evict me. So it's kind of both. You can have one or both of these come into factor. So that's how these Spot virtual machine instance work. And just keep in mind, we used to have low priority virtual machine instances before. Spot instances are a replacement for those. So if you are using, or your customers are using low priority instances, they are being deprecated. The moving forward, Spot virtual machine instances are the virtual machine instance that you should be using. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, sorry. Okay, so that's how you do it in virtual machines. And by the way, if you are not sure how the system will behave when you're evicted, what you can do is, there is a command line CLI available, which is basically a new command. It is called simulate eviction. So let's say you want to make sure, you want to test it out, how that eviction will work. So let's say we go in here. This is the VM that we have already created just to save time. This virtual machine is running right now. As you can see, this is running. So what we're going to do is, we are going to call eviction here. Let me just see. Yes. So I'm just going to call this API. And what it does is, it will simulate the eviction. So you just want to test your virtual machine out. They say it will take approximately 30 minutes to have this kicked in. You can check out. What you can do is, you can go to the activity logs, and it will show you what is happening. As you may have seen, I have tried this a few minutes earlier. And you can, once you simulate eviction, you will see in the logs, and what it will do is, in this one, I have set up the policy of deallocate. So it will not delete the VM, it will just deallocate it. It will put it in the stop state. Okay. Okay. Any questions?
Hey, Naveed, a quick question on after deallocation. Does it leave behind some sort of like a deployment template where you can just go in and say, hey, if these prices are available again, go ahead and redeploy?
No, that's the thing. You have to basically go in and redeploy that VM. Not right now. So basically, what you can do is, that's why the max price trigger is there. You can set the max price, and then it will kind of go to that max price and work on that. But yes, you will have to. I mean, that's why it is for interruptible workloads. Yeah. So basically, this thing has happened. As you can see here, simulate eviction machine started, succeeded. Let's see the overview. And what it will do is, after some time, let me refresh this page. After some time, you see that machine is deallocated, stopped, deallocated. So basically, that's how it will work in real world as well. When you have a virtual machine that you are using, and kind of eviction happens. Let's take a look at how the scale set will work. So let's take a look at scale set. Okay, so once again, if I go in and create a VM scale set, once again, Spot instance will come here as well, and they will allow you to do this capacity or price or a mix of both. And so that's how scale set would work. Okay, just keep in mind. So let's say that you have an auto scale set, okay, and you have a minimum instance count. And some of the instance got deallocated because of the eviction, and your VM scale set is trying to scale up because it needs more instances. There is no guarantee that the scale up will happen. You see the dilemma here? You have a VM auto scale set with auto scaling on. Some of the VMs got deallocated because of eviction. Now it's trying to scale up or scale out because it has lost some instance. With the rules that you have set, it's trying to scale out. There is no guarantee that the scale will happen. Okay, that's why it is recommended that if you are VM scale set with Spot instances, do not make them auto scale, because that is most probably not going to happen, and you may see unpredictable results. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, doke. So this is kind of very simple. You can set it up. In regards to AKS, there is no command that is available from the UI, or there is no UI support available. You can go in and you have to have the latest CLI, and then you will be able to create a new node pool just consisting of Spot instances. So that's once again a very powerful feature. You can set up a node pool with only Spot instances. So once again, for your dev test workloads where you have AKS running and you want to save as much as you can, run Spot instances. There is nothing different. It's just a VM. Just keep in mind, it's a virtual machine. Yes, there is no SLA, but there is nothing deficient in that virtual machine. It is a virtual machine, just like anything else. Okay, so that's very important. Okay. So for example, here I have a Kubernetes service, and if I go in here, Where are the node pools? This is the node pool. As you can see, I named it Spot node pool. I have created it earlier, and it is basically same node pool, just that it's based on Spot instances. It may go away. I mean, it may have 0 nodes if all the Spot instances are taken off, but still, it's based on Spot instances. And let me show you the scale set that I had. Machine scale set. This is the scale set of that I have created, and this is earlier, and this is Azure Spot. It's based on capacity, and it's currently running. So this is basically a VM scale set. It clearly says that it's based on capacity and it's still running. Okay, and this is the virtual machine scale set that I have created with AKS. And once again, look at the Azure Spot, its capacity. So this is something about the Spot instances. So let's quickly go back to the slide deck. I have a few slides. Oh, this talks about some of the deployment scenario, how you will deploy it. Yeah, okay. So this is basically taking over from low priority instances. So they are gone. They're kind of retired. If you are using them, you have been using them, they are basically it's a retired service, and you should be using Spot VM instances. So at this point, I just want to open the floor up for any questions, comments, feedback. Okay, good. So just want to mention once again, Spot instances is a feature to help you save cost in the cloud. Be aware of the eviction policy that you set up. If you are saving some data and you don't want to lose it, you may want to use just the deallocate policy. If you don't care about the data on those VMs, then use delete policy. If you are using the deallocate policy, be aware that if those VMs are gone, you are, even though they are deallocated, you are still paying for the disk attached to it. Okay. And in regards to if you are using Spot instances with VM scale set, be aware that auto scaling may not work. That is, auto scaling should be off. And you can use Spot instances with virtual machines, scale sets, with AKS clustered. You can create node pools with the Spot instances. One other thing, there is no difference between the VMs that you create with Spot instances or other, except there is no SLA for the VMs that you create with Spot instances. Okay, you can set the price, or you can just set the eviction eviction based on capacity, or both. So that's totally on you how you set that up. So with that, I will give. If there are no questions, I will give everybody their 5 minutes back, and we will hopefully we see everyone next week for another session of Azure Powerland. Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
Amina, if you want to go off mute, or I could.
Yeah, I have one question. So there is no for high availability for Spot VM, right?
No, the goal is it's for interruptible workload. So the high availability exactly is not the point here. It's saving cost, basically.
No, the built-in one also is not available, right? The guarantee on the VM. So you will.
There's no SLA.
Okay, and there is no, and you can lose data if your disks are not managed, right?
You can lose data if you set the policy to delete. So let's say you have a VM that is running, you copied some data onto it, or you were doing some testing, you saved from files, and then eviction policy hit, and you set it to delete instead of deallocate, stop and deallocate. It will delete the VM along with its disk.
Okay.
So if you want to preserve any data, then you set up stop deallocate, but at the same time, you will be paying for those disk cost, although the compute is gone.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Great session, Naveed.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, folks, everyone. I hope to see everyone next week, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Thanks, all.
Yes.